Again, this is another good point to sort of mention, that he was beloved of his men. And everyone back home, more or less.
Yeah.
This idea that he was sort of a tyrant, or that
Well, who says
he
that?
hated, well, lots of revisionists, well, not
Really?
tyrant, but that he was, he held England in contempt on some level.
I've never seen it.
People say it all the
I
time.
know people say it, but I mean, going through various accounts of his lives, I don't see that at all.
Or he was just some sort of psychopathic butcher.
No.
Like, no, not at all. Not at all.
He's not Tamerlane or anything. Christ, calm down.
He's almost the perfect example, just a leader of men.
Yeah.
Where you just got full faith in his ability.
Well, one thing that the reason I juxtaposed him with Pyrrhus earlier is because they do seem to be the same sort of archetype. There seems to be this kind of archetype of just the great warrior who is actually really kind outside of war, and
generous
and generous and forgiving with their enemies, and politically naive because they assume that everyone else is kind of straightforward like they are and things like this. Like there genuinely seems to be this kind of archetype that recurs through history. I'm sure I could find other examples if I were to go and have a look. And I always really like these chaps.
Yeah.
They're
likable. Yeah,
they're very likable, and they're very popular in their own time, because why wouldn't you be? Like, they show a bunch of virtues, and they don't show many vices. Actually, what are Richard's main vices? He likes to fight. That's not a vice.
Yeah.
In his day.
Not in the 12th century, right?
Yeah, that's not a vice.
No, it's an out-and-out virtue.
Yeah,
it's what you're expected to do.
It's why everyone loves him, actually.
Yeah.
And he's great at it, which is another virtue. And he's forgiving and kind and religious, and he's not crazed. He could be so much worse. He's got examples in his own family who are so much worse. And
you're right. He's usually magnanimous in victory, extremely generous and open-handed. I said a quote at the beginning from Churchill, didn't I, about how he just views the whole world and everyone in it as just a bit part player in his glory and fame.
Yeah.
And because of that, you're not cruel to them.
No.
You don't humiliate them or anything.
No.
Your greatness is part of my greatness and things.
Yeah. I totally agree. It's exactly the sort of impression I get from Richard. And why wouldn't you love that kind of guy? And he's very energetic as well. So, he must have been some kind of optimist. We can do a great thing here. This is going to be brilliant. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to win. Obviously, we're going to win. We're going to win everywhere. You're going to get tired of winning. It's like, why wouldn't that be an intoxicating character to be around? It's like these men, there's our great warrior king who just keeps winning everything. Brilliant. I guess we're going to win, lads. Of course you'd love this. Yeah. Oh, he's got food and wine for us and whatever, why wouldn't you be like, this is brilliant. This is as good as it could ever get for a medieval peasant or a knight or whoever who's gone on a crusade. You couldn't ask for better.
Right. Absolutely that. You want him to lead you.
Yeah.
Right.
My God, it'd be tragic if it was someone else. We've had this glorious golden figure. Oh, it's not going to be John, is it? Anything else would just be a massive disappointment to the average person on this crusade.
Again, like a big giant sports star who's also a war hero that you love and is leading you successfully everywhere he goes.
Friendly and charming and generous. I couldn't ask for a better set of characteristics in the leader.
After Sicily, the next sort of event is at Cyprus. So you obviously on a map you can see he sailed across the Aegean there. He was meant to just go straight to the Holy Land, but there's a giant storm. Yeah,
but who owns Cyprus?
It's a Komnenos, Isaac Komnenos.
Yeah, that's not a very Egyptian name. It's a weirdly Greek name.
Yeah.
That's meant to be the Allies?
So this Isaac Komnenos II was a Byzantine rebel. He was sort of a wannabe Byzantine emperor who had found himself in control of Cyprus and was sort of like I say, a rebel wanted by the Byzantines, but was in control of Cyprus. And Cyprus is, it's pretty close. It's right there.
It's right next to.
But it's also a fairly big island. It's not a tiny little rock. Cyprus. It's fairly.
It's also wealthy.
Yeah, and it's strategically very, very well placed.
Oh yes.
So it's a great prize for anyone that wants it. The Muslims, the Byzantines, the Franks, everyone would want to control Cyprus.
The English king who just rocked up with 25,000 men.
So he didn't even, I don't think they even meant to particularly land on Cyprus, but they get shipwrecked. There's a big storm.
Yeah.
And he loses loads of ships, like 25 ships or whatever, completely shipwrecked off the coast of Cyprus. And the rest are sort of, it's just a really bad shipwreck. And and this Isaac Comnenus, who fancies himself an emperor, he thinks he's an emperor, or he's self-styled an emperor. And Richard, the ruler of the vast Angevin Empire, is merely a king, king of England, and got a whole bunch of duchies and there's
he just rules from the Pyrenees to the Highlands. Just one of the most powerful men in Western Europe. But you own Cyprus, so
Because the thing is, emperors are above kings. That's sort of in no doubt.
There's a hierarchy.
Yeah. Kings might be anointed by heaven, by God, but emperors are next to gods, perhaps even divine in some way. So anyway, this Isaac thinks he can sort of take advantage. Apparently, the histories say that he didn't really know of Richard's particular prowess. He'd obviously heard of him, he's famous.
Yeah.
But he didn't know that Richard was sort of personally a good tactician and a great, great fighter. He wasn't necessarily completely aware of that. Well, he finds out in those short order. So, one thing to mention is that I think it's before this. It's before it was back on Sicily. Richard had been betrothed to someone in Louis's family, Philip's family, his sister, I think. Been betrothed to her. And Richard decides, I'm just not going to marry her. I'll give you the dowry back, or I'll pay you, Louis, lots of money. But I'm not going to marry her. I'm going to marry the Princess of Navarre, which is in northern Spain.
Apparently she's very beautiful.
Berengaria. I think so, yeah. Yeah, Berengaria of Navarre. So, for political reasons, Richard calculated he'd rather do that. But that really gets Louis' back up. I mean, obviously it's a political alliance which has now fallen apart, but also it's a sort of a fairly personal slap in the face as well, isn't it? It seems like Richard, again, being a bit politically naive, didn't really think that. He just thought, it's a transactional thing. I'll give you money. Yeah. We're all cool, right?
But also
it's not cool.
There's dynastic questions. Again, this is the naive part. Like, sorry, he wants you to marry his sister so that his nephew is the future king of England. Yeah. He's thinking that, Richard. You might be like, oh, look at this bird from the Spanish bird. She's nice. Or I like that guy. I want to be in an alliance with him or whatever. It's like, that's not how it works, Richard.
Yeah.
This is where Churchill's naivety critique comes in and is fair.
So that really, really poisons their relationship between Richard and Louis. Richard and Philip now. So one of the ships, which isn't wrecked, but it's sort of left out a bit stranded at sea, is a ship that's got Berengaria in it. And also one of Richard's sisters. Is it Joan?
Yeah.
And Isaac Comnenus sort of tried to lure them in. He says, land and I'll land here and I'll treat you well. You must want food and water and things. But they were savvy enough to know that, no, he's just going to imprison us and ransom us back to Richard. So they don't take his bait. And he would have done it. That was what he was angling at. Yeah. And he says to Richard, he tries to play hardball with Richard. Tell him he's got to jump through all sorts of hoops and all sorts of stuff. And, Richard just doesn't have any of it and launches a classic amphibious assault. Again, Isaac apparently didn't see it coming, particularly. He had his army sort of ready by the coastline should these crusaders attack. But just Richard, again, as well as being personally good in combat, also was a good tactician. knew his business
This
quite
was
well.
literally his entire life.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So Strauss Oman says this: if we were relating the personal acts of Richard rather than the history of England, there would be much to tell of his feats in the East. He began by subduing the Isle of Cyprus, whose ruler Isaac Comnenus, a rebel against the Emperor of Constantinople, had ill-treated the shipwrecked crews of some English vessels. After conquering the whole island, he took formal possession of it, and with great pomp married there his affianced bride, Berengaria of Navarre, who had come out from Europe to join him. He then sailed for the Holy Land and landed near Acre in the centre of the seat of war. So just to say, it is like a nighttime amphibious beach landing, and the sun comes up and Isaac finds himself, oh, I'm sort of done here. They've got the drop on me, surrounded. Maybe we'll try and fight. Oh no, they're way too good and way too hard for us. Actually.
Yeah, what you do, fight these chaps.
Hands up. So, Richard basically conquers the whole of Cyprus very quickly, wins that engagement straight away, and then conquers the whole island within a few weeks.
Because, I mean, he has turned up with one of the best armies England has ever fielded.
Yeah.
Up until this point. Right, probably one of the largest as well.
Yeah.
You know, like, you would have thought that Isaac would have been like, having a bit of a, you know, like, it's not good to have a bunch of northern barbarians suddenly sailing past your little island with a fleet and a massive army with the intent on conquering a bunch of stuff. Actually, I don't really want them here. Maybe I'll just be nice to them, and get rid of them, and, you know, because, I mean, you've got to be pretty foolhardy, I would have thought.
Instead of trying to take Richard's wife or fiancée and sister captive and lording your wannabe emperorship over his kingship, he could have just tried to play ball. But anyway, one nice little story is that when they finally have a sort of negotiated peace, where Isaac Comnenus has got no real cards to play, he says, "I'll give up though, on the sole condition that I'm not clapped in irons." And Richard agrees, and then has some custom-made silver shackles made, claps them in them instead.
Cunning.
So yeah, I think that's just a great story. I love that sort of thing.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.